the SportsCenter, Travis Winks alongside Andrew Orsatti. We'll tell you all about the Waratahs' bid to make the Super 14 final shortly. But Orsatti, let's start with the Sharon.
Yes, round 9 of the AFL has continued at the G. Essendon and Richmond both at the wrong end of the table and desperate for a win. The Tigers have been playing well at times, but they've come away with nothing from their last 3 matches. Nathan Burns gets the ball rolling against the Bombers side, still stuck on the runway after a very poor start to the season. Not to mention this match, they're in trouble early. Too many mistakes. Shane Edwards here with one of his 2 majors in the opening term. Kane Pettifer also among the goals as Richmond opens a 28-point lead at the first break. In fact, they have 8 goals on the board by the time Essendon finally wake up from their nightmare. Star full forward Matthew Lloyd with the set shot midway through the second quarter. They start to show a bit more desperation with Lloyd on target again with 2 goals in quick succession. And now we have a game, or so it would seem. Jay Nash looking for Lloyd, who produces a stunning finish here from the angle, stabbing it through off the left boot. They're pumped, reducing the deficit to 26 points, but now we see the Tigers' tenacity coming to the fore. They find their feet again. Kane Johnson with a marvellous snap as we head to the final term. Brown and Edwards with 3 goals apiece as Richmond secure a much-needed 3rd win of the season. The Bombers keeping the score somewhat respectable in the end compared to previous weeks. They've been absolutely woeful at times. 38 points, the final margin, and now 6 defeats in a row. So many strong performers for Richmond in this one. Nathan Foley, Brett Deledio, Matthew Richardson, to name just a few. And the Bombers, well, Matthew Lloyd's 4 goals stand out. Nathan Brown might have bettered that if not for some wayward kicking. Now, if you thought being a Bombers fan was depressing at the moment, they're in good company. David Wirapunda here leading the Eagles out following 7 straight defeats. Flashback to last week, West Coast was narrowly beaten by the Kangaroos. It's the 2nd longest losing streak in their club's history. They're back at Subiaco Oval. Another setback here against the Adelaide Crows will equal the 8 consecutive losses suffered in 2001. Chris Maston, his first goal in AFL. It's a slow start for both sides, a mere 13 points between them in the first quarter. Terrible turnover here from Tyson Edwards, and Dean Cox makes him pay. Now, Wirapunda from almost right in front doesn't miss. 2 goals on the night of his 200-game milestone. Ivan Maric, he's a big unit. Look at him. Hard to stop. And this one looks good. The Crows finally get their one and only goal of the first half. 3rd quarter, Chad Fletcher to Andrew Embley. He's got loads of time and space to drill this one through. Very nicely done indeed. The Eagles lead by 34 heading into the final term. Next goal is crucial. The Crows still in this one, but when Brent Staker scores, the home side can sense a return to the winners' list, where Apunda gets his 2nd major as the Eagles run away with it to win by 50.
Let's go to the Super 14 semis. First stop, Christchurch. 6 times champs Canterbury hosting the Hurricanes. The visitors minus injured skipper Rodney Soliola. The Canes off to a dream start. Guildford charging down Carter's clearance to put him on the board less than 2 minutes in. Carter had his radar working as the Crusaders opened their account with a penalty. The Canes kicking to an 8-6 lead with Weepu slotting a pen of his own. The visitors gutsy because they had no ball or territory. Eventually something had to give, and it did just before the break. McDonald slicing through. Carter racking up 900 career points with the conversion to have the Crusaders leading 13-8 at half-time. With the amount of ball they had, it should have been more. McDonald banking a double early in the second as the hosts opened up a 12-point lead. They were dominating right across the park. Kieran Reid scored as well. Carter making it 7 from 7 with the boot. The Crusaders cruising towards the final, but they gave up a couple of late tries as the Canes put some respectability into the score. It was elementary, though, as the Crusaders dispelled any fears they're out of form with a dominant display. 33-22, the full-time score. So, departing Canterbury coach Robbie Deans lives to fight another day as the Crusaders power into their 9th final in 13 years. But they could be without hooker Corey Flynn, who suffered a suspected broken arm. The Crusaders chasing their 7th title when they host the final in Christchurch next Saturday night against who? The winner of the Waratahs and Sharks, of course. Squared off in front of more than 37,000 fans at the SFS. The Tars unbeaten at home this season. New South Wales skipper Phil Waugh making his 100th appearance in the Sky Blue. The crowd giving Peanut plenty for sinking an early drop goal. Sharks up 3-0. Kurtley Beale levelled the scores after the Sharks were pinged for offside. It was pretty even until the Tars turned it on in the 26th. The hosts hustling the Sharks at the line-out. Horn with a humdinger in defence to Keary. Swooping on the pill. Try-time Waratahs 10-3 with the kick. 4 minutes later, and the Tars had their second. The ref playing the advantage. Norton Knight spreading it wide. Elson draws the defence, sets up Horn. Over he goes. The Tars in control. 15-6 at the break. Their line-out outstanding in the first 40. In fact, the New South Wales forwards were awesome. Elson, Baxter and Big Robinson laying the foundations for another raid. And the chocolates came thanks to the overlap. The Sharks skinny out wide. Beale diving over for his first meat pie of the season. The Tars piling on 10 points in the first 5 minutes of the second half. Burgess reminding the Wallaby selectors he's ready to step up. The scrum half with the intercept off the scrum as the hosts move a step closer to the final. That gave them a 19-point lead. The visitors had their chances to get back in it, but the Tars' defence was exceptional. Burden eventually got over for him, but it was all too late. Beale had a shocker with the boot, kicking just 2 from 7, but he slotted a drop goal just before full time. The Tars too good, 28-13. They're off to Christchurch for the final.
We started pushing passes and things like that, but apart from that, it was a pretty good effort. You know, all the characteristic things you need. You obviously need to be aggressive and we defended well as we have done all year. But you know, we scored 4 tries, which was good as well.
I think when we came away from there, you know, a couple of months ago, we were really disappointed with how we finished the game. And you know, I think amongst the team, I think we still feel like we haven't played our best football. So, no better time than next week to put it together.
The Windies resuming day 3 of the first test against the Aussies in Jamaica at 3 for 115. Morton and Chanderpaul both in the 20s. The latter with a bit of luck off Clark as he settled in for a session. He and Morton's 128-run partnership coming to an end, 4 runs shy of the Windies 200. Morton going after McGill. The backfired Clark taking a beauty. McGill are expensive. Bravo going after him with Chanderpaul holding down the other end and Bravo having a crack. The Windies were eating away at the Aussies total of 431, but a rush of blood cost Bravo. Caught Kadich bowled Lee for 46. The Windies 5 for 260. Random came and went. Lee getting him in his next over. The Aussies going for the kill. Tail exposed. Johnson getting Sammy for a duck as the host lost 3 for 3. Make it 4 for 8. Check this out. Lee taking his third with the polar power. Chanderpaul was looking good for a ton, but he's running out of partners. The Aussies on track for 100-plus first innings lead. And for more on the Aussies tour of the Caribbean, including the latest scores and stats, the Black Caps battle with England and the IPL, log on to crickinfo.com.
NRL now. Gosford's the venue for South Sydney's clash with a different-looking Melbourne side. 8 of their Origin stars backing up, but Greg Inglis is a late withdrawal. Points are hard to come by at Blue Tongue Stadium. Billy Slater unable to reach that one. Similar ploy. Cooper Cronk with the delicate chip this time. Steve Turner lets a big opportunity slip. 13th minute, there's a storm brewing down the left. Matt Geyer puts Will Chambers through a gaping hole. Cameron Smith missing the conversion, though. It's a low-scoring first half. The Rabbitohs' best chance sees Nigel Vangana robbed by Slater and Chambers cleaning up on the line. Almost an hour on the clock when Cronk goes to the air. Vangana under pressure and the loose ball scooped up by Jeremy Smith. The converted try giving Melbourne a 12-0 lead. The game comes to life. Slater fails to deal with the high bomb and Vangana gets his revenge. He just gets it down 2 and hope for the Bunnies. The deficit cut to 6, but then Cronk sizing up the field goal, beautifully struck, never in doubt. And now extra pressure on South. They need to score twice. They answer the challenge, but it's too late. A sweeping move finished off by Vangana as Melbourne win this one 15-10. So the Storm bouncing back from their loss to the Dragons, winning 6 of their last 7. They now share top spot with the Titans ahead of the round's remaining matches, while the Rabbitohs remain anchored to the bottom, having lost all but 1 match this season. A swift penalty for Chelsea manager Avram Grant. He's been sacked just days after his side's loss to Manchester United in the Champions League final. Former Socceroos coach Chris Hiddink is among the early favourites for the job. Chelsea also finished 2nd in the English Premier League, but ESPN's Adrian Healy believes Grant's dismissal is not based on results.
So the axe falls on Avram Grant just 3 days after the Champions League final. Really, it was always going to be a tough proposition for the Israeli to follow on from Jose Mourinho, despite the fact that his results were just as good as Mourinho's. He had a public persona problem. He was always considered to be the undertaker rather than the entertainer. And in the end, that did it for Avram Grant. Now the search is on for his successor.
Ahead on SportsCenter, Leighton's limbering up for the French Open despite ongoing concerns about his fitness. And drivers, start your engines. A Trans-Tasman tail develops at the Indy 500. Welcome back with the second Grand Slam tennis event of the year almost upon us. Australia's Lleyton Hewitt has been declared fit for the French Open. A two-time quarter-finalist at Roland Garros. This will be his first tournament in almost 2 months after struggling with a hip injury. But how's he shaping up? ESPN's Jason Dacey joins us now from Roland Garros. Jason, you've been following Hewitt on the practice courts. What's the latest as he prepares to face Nicolas Mahut in the first round?
Well, Andrew, he practiced for around an hour today on court 7 here at Roland Garros under the watchful eye of his coach, Tony Roach. He is going to play despite his camp saying he's only 85 to 90% fit. He's going to play through the pain barrier. As for his record here at the French Open, it's not too bad. 22 wins, 8 defeats. He's made the quarterfinals twice, as you mentioned. He's been in the fourth round 4 times. Last year, he lost to Rafael Nadal. In 2004, he lost to Agustin Gaudio, the eventual champion. So even though it's not as good as some of the other Grand Slam tournaments, he certainly has a decent record here at Roland Garros and will play the second Grand Slam of the year.
And in the women's draw, Australia is represented by Casey Dell'Acqua and Samantha Stosur, who'll be hoping to improve on reaching the third round last year.
Yes, you have to go back all the way till 1973 for the last time that an Australian woman won the French Open. That was Margaret Court. They both got pretty tough first-round draws. Casey Dell'Acqua facing Marion Bartoli, the French woman who made the final of Wimbledon, and also Sam Stosur up against Shahir Peer, the Israeli. Sam Stosur coming back from around 8 months out of the game with illness and also injury. She's had some reasonable form on the clay court circuit, but it's not looking too good for the Aussie women going into the French Open, you'd have to say, Andrew.
Just quickly, Jason, interesting times in women's tennis. Who's going to step up following the shock retirement of 3-time defending French Open champion Justine Henin?
Well, it's amazing, isn't it, just to see Justine Henin walking away like that. Maria Sharapova is the top seed here. Of course, she won the Australian Open back in January. But Justine Henin really making headlines today at the French Open. She gave a press conference to try and explain some of the reasons why she's walking away from the game at the age of just 25, going on 26.
It's a brave decision. It's not easy to retire when you're number one, when you want so many things, when you just going to turn 26. It's not that easy, but in another way I felt it was the right thing to do for me, and it's not a decision I took in a week. It took some months to really realize, and it started to be an evidence, and really it was clear in my head that I would be happier in another way.
So she walked away at the very top with the world #1 ranking. She would have gone for her 4th straight Roland Garros title had she decided to play here in the women's singles, Andrew.
OK, thanks for now. Jason Dacey will be catching up throughout the tournament.
The Indianapolis 500 makes legends. It's the race Aussie driver Ryan Briscoe is hoping will kickstart his year. Briscoe will start from 3rd in tomorrow's iconic event. The 26-year-old aiming to become the first Aussie champ at the Brickyard. After qualifying on the front row 2 weeks ago, his wait is almost over.
What a month. It's just so exciting, and there's so much build-up. And here we are just getting ready for race day, and you know, we're ready to go. So starting on the front row, it's a great place to be, but we've got 500 miles to go, and you know, hopefully we've done all the right preparation, and we can win this thing. The important thing is just try to get a nice night's rest, really. Just sleep well and get up in the morning and get into it. So, you know, I don't try to get out of a normal routine too much, and just make sure I've rested up well. I think I've got a great chance. You know, I've got all the right people and equipment behind me, and you you know, from this month, it's been a great month for me, and it's been a huge confidence boost, and we'll have to see. You know, there's always a big question mark until we're sort of 10 laps into the race, and then we see what we've got, and we'll have to work with it. But you know, I'm feeling good, but you know, there are a lot of guys out there that I feel feeling confident that they can win, and I believe I'm one of them that have a great shot at it, so we'll just have to see what we can do.
The 92nd Indy 500 has a real Trans-Tasman flavour about it. Kiwi Scott Dixon will start from pole. Last year's runner-up, looking to go one better in 08. This will be his 6th start at the Brickyard. Joining Briscoe in the Aussie Assault is former Champ Car contender Will Power. The Queenslander starting from 23rd in his maiden Indy 500, but he's already been on the podium this season after taking out the last ever Long Beach Grand Prix last month. On that same weekend, Danica Patrick broke through for her first ever IndyCar victory, showing up the guys at Motor Guy. Her best finish at the 500 is 4th. 33 drivers, 1 winner. The question, can Danica become the first ever female champ? Can Dixon go one better? Will Power or Briscoe create Australian history? Our live coverage of the Indianapolis 500 starts tomorrow from 2:30 a.m. Australian Eastern. Who'll be the driver that sculls the milk in Victory Lane? Find out right here on ESPN.
Still to come on SportsCenter, Freo in free fall following another final quarter collapse. This time against Carlton, and New Zealand have their black thinking caps on. The Kiwis make a run against England in the second test in Manchester. Stick around.
We're back with AFL, and Freo supporters have that sinking feeling again after watching their team surrender a 3/4 time lead for the 4th match in a row, this time against Carlton.
Yes, the Blues responding under pressure, or did the Dockers throw it away? ESPN's Anthony Howard has more.
Two of the best teams in world football played extra time in Moscow and still couldn't come up with a goal to match the one that Brendan Favola struck to set the tone of Carlton's day in Melbourne.
Favola somehow, that is absolutely sensational.
Matthew Pavlich came up with an impressive response, but was largely playing a lone hand for the visitors in the first half. He engineered the fight back in the second that was fuelled by a couple of recruits.
Tarrant coming!
Chris Tarrant showed glimpses of his old self, but for Kepler Bradley, this was all new territory.
He even goes past Chris Judd. Oh, Kepler Bradley! Come on down!
With their recent record in mind, it was hard to say whether it was a good thing or not the Dockers had a 3-point lead at the last change. Pavlich made the case for the affirmative with the first goal of the last term, but with the finish line looming, things again went awry. First, Andrew Carazzo kicked the longest and most important bomb of his career.
50 decides to have a pot shot and he's kicked a goal!
And then best on ground, Nick Stevens got on the end of a Bryce Gibbs handball to put the Blues in front. The Freo skipper had a simple chance to rectify the situation, but not for the first time this year, hit the woodwork at a crucial time.
Oh, he's missed it!
The second time in a close part of the game, yeah. It's not, I'm not blaming Pav at all. It's, at least he's in the situation where he's offering the team an advantage.
For Pavlich, it was a cruel end to a day on which he was again his side's best player. The pain compounded by a sensational sealer by Darren Pfeiffer, one which left the Blues to celebrate a 4th win of the season. The Dockers again asking how they let it slip.
That's the answer I'm looking for. Yeah.
I think it was round 16, 2001 was the last time we beat Fremantle, and that's another record we sort of tick off to say it's a new beginning for this team and the players that are involved.
In Melbourne, Anthony Howard for ESPN.
Meantime, the Swans have cemented themselves in 5th after turning the Power off by 11 points at Amy Stadium. Port had their chances but have now slipped to a 3-6 start for the season. Ebert and Treadray kicking 9 of their 14 goals.
New Zealand Warriors skipper Steve Price returns from injury today for the round 11 NRL clash with the Roosters in Auckland. The inspirational forward is back from a hamstring problem sustained against the Storm in round 1. And for more on this afternoon's other match at Leichhardt Oval, here's Daryl Broman and Russell Barwick.
And the Tigers are hosting the Titans on a sunny Sunday afternoon at Leichhardt Oval. Should be packed, the old hill.
Always a great day there, and it'll be a great day again today.
Shame it'll take us 2.5 hours to get in and out of the joint.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's the way it is. Nothing you can do about that. I'm going to tip the Tigers. They were pretty good last week, I thought. Tim Sheens gave them a bit of a bake after the game. I know their defence wasn't great, but I thought in general they were okay. The Tigers, look, he's a perfectionist. We all know that, and he's obviously trying to get the best out of his players, including Benji.
Yeah. And just quickly, Monday Night Football?
I'll tip the Sharks. They're my boys, the Sharks. I think they'll beat the Dogs. They're struggling, the Dogs, aren't they? But this is a real danger game. The sort of game the Bulldogs could win.
The thoughts of Daryl Broman. A couple of games today and one on Monday night.
Cricket. 2 late wickets from New Zealand skipper Daniel Vettori has given the Black Caps the edge at stumps on day 2 of the second test against England. The tourists adding 179 to their overnight score before being bowled out for 381. Rookie batsman Daniel Flynn failing to return to the crease after having a tooth knocked out by James Anderson on day 1. In fact, Flynn has returned to hospital to see a neurosurgeon after being plagued by nausea. Ross Taylor's 154 not out impressive. Andrew Strauss reaching his half-century. England trailing by 229 with 6 wickets remaining in the first innings.
Ahead, Boston's Blues on the road. Can the Celtics regain that winning feeling away from home as the Eastern Conference Finals hot up and Coulthard carnage on the streets of Monte Carlo while Mass is the man at Monaco? We're back with SportsCenter, and San Antonio's NBA championship defence is looking very shaky after copping a 30-point touch-up from the Lakers in Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. Kobe's boys now 2-0 up heading into tomorrow's third game.
Yes, and it's a one apiece in the East as Detroit play host to Boston later this morning. The Celtics winless on the road postseason despite boasting the big three of KG, Paul Pierce and Ray Allen. With more on Boston's road Blues, here's ESPN's Rachel Nichols.
It is simple, and after their Game 2 loss, it's staring the Celtics in the face. The team that had been able to skate through the postseason only on home wins now has to win on the road, period.
You had the blanket, let's say, of home court, you know, that's been taken away. And so now you have to go out and, you know, cut your teeth and earn your stripes, and, you know, we'll see.
We finally, you know, couldn't come up front and personal with that dilemma. You know, we got to find some way to win one on the road, and that's what it is.
So far, the Celtics are 0-6 on the road, but players insist the problem is more about execution than anything mental.
I don't think it's really bothered us psychologically. Like I said, I thought our last 3 road games that we played, we really played well, but came up on the short end of the stick. And I can see this team growing offensively, and especially on the road, I think we're going to put out a better effort.
Some coaches will try to soothe the struggling road team by bringing along more of the comforts of home. But as the Celtics packed up from the Garden, they brought along no extra equipment, invited no extra family members. Coach Doc Rivers said he thinks it helps the team more to feel like they're in enemy territory. At least, he hopes it does. In Boston, I'm Rachel Nichols, ESPN.
David Coulthard will start from 10th for tonight's Monaco Grand Prix after failing to post a time in the final session of qualifying. That is why Ferrari flying on the streets of Monte Carlo. Reigning world champ Kimi Raikkonen was sitting on top until his teammate bumped him off at the death. Felipe Massa claiming pole. He's looking to become the first Ferrari driver since Jody Scheckter back in 1979 to win from P1 at Monaco. Raikkonen ensuring an all-Ferrari front row, while Lewis Hamilton will start from 3rd ahead of McLaren teammate Heikki Kovalainen. Mark Webber will blast off from 9th. And that is it for SportsCenter. I'm Travis Winks.
And I'm Andrew Orsatti. Goodbye for now.
For soccer news and views, everything you need to know in the world game is online all of the time. The latest in breaking stories, scores and highlights are at soccernet.com, your one-stop shop for international football.